Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Today we're checking out the latest reverb from Strymon. This is the BigSky MX. Now they're referring to this as their next generation reverb workstation, and I've also seen them refer to it as the greatest of all time reverb. Let's see if it lives up to those names. So what you've been hearing there is my Heritage H150 through a Friedman IRD pedal directly through the BigSky MX and straight into the DAW. As you heard, the BigSky MX is a fantastic sounding reverb, and it's so versatile. It can cover everything from spaces to crazy ambiances to wild effects and everything in between. And that's because there's a lot of power here and a lot of new technology that's happening in the background. Now you're probably familiar with Strymon's BigSky, which has become standard for many pedal boards across all different genres of music and all different types of guitar players. It's a fantastic sounding reverb in itself. But the BigSky MX is a huge leap forward, so really comparing the two isn't a fair kind of a thing. They're really two different pedals. This is really designed to be what Strymon is referring to as a reverb workstation because it gives you so much possibility. So let's talk about some of the things that are new here compared to the Strymon BigSky. So the BigSky MX was 4 years in development. They really put the time into this thing, and it really shows in how it sounds and what it'll do for you. One of the big differences between the BigSky and the BigSky MX is the processor that's inside. The original BigSky had a 366 megahertz Sharp chip, super powerful, capable of delivering really beautiful sounding reverbs. But the BigSky MX has a tri-core 32-bit floating point 800 megahertz ARM processor. It's just super powerful inside a pedal like this. And one of the advantages is that it allows us to run two completely separate reverb machines simultaneously. And as we'll see, we can route those two machines in a variety of different ways. We can use them separately, we can switch between them, we can set them up in parallel, we can work them in split mode, we can operate them in series. So that really expands the creative possibilities with the BigSky MX. That ARM processor also gives us greatly enhanced dynamic response for the reverbs here. It really tracks along with your playing well, allows you to be very expressive, and the reverb follows right along with that and is expressive along with you, if you will. It's a beautiful thing to play through. The BigSky MX contains what they call 12 reverb machines, and you can think of those machines basically as algorithms. We have 12 different types of reverbs that are available here. 7 of those are completely new compared to the original BigSky, and then even the 5 that are coming over from the BigSky have been greatly enhanced with new features. And again, they're taking advantage of all that processing power, the dual engine capability, the dynamic response, and so on. All 12 of the machines or algorithms inside the BigSky MX are handcrafted. Basically, the engineers, the designers at Strymon are sitting down and they're going through and making just beautiful algorithms to create these different types of reverbs. But then they're going through an extra step. Each algorithm is then run through what they call their gradient descent optimization algorithm, which is a mouthful. But basically that's going through and removing any undesirable ringing or artifacts and basically just helping to beautify all of those reverb algorithms. A big new machine inside the BigSky MX is the impulse machine. And this allows us to load up to 10-second long stereo impulse responses into the BigSky MX. It comes with 22 impulse responses already loaded in, and those are things like classic studio processors that they've captured and put into the BigSky MX. But you also can use the Nixie 2 software to load your own impulse responses into the BigSky MX. And beyond that, you can actually edit those impulse responses right in here. There are a variety of different parameters we can apply. You can apply, first of all, the front panel parameters, but we also can dig in and affect the length. We can resample, so we can stretch and we can shorten those impulse responses. We can process them in different ways. There also is a brand new chambers algorithm, and 5 of the algorithms have been completely rewritten from the ground up. The 5 completely new algorithms from Strymon include the spring, the plate, the hall, the room, and the shimmer machines. The shimmer machine now has 2 different modes. You can operate in a fast, modern mode, if you will, or you can switch over and use classic mode like you had in the BigSky. The bloom machine has a new harmonics engine. And the chorale has a new choir engine as well. The spring machine now has 2 versions, the new updated version and also the classic version that came from the BigSky. But a big difference is the inclusion of tube modeling for the dwell parameter. The nonlinear machine has a new chopping function, so there's just so much going on with all 12 machines. Lots of new updates here. And you have even more hands-on control. Right here on the front panel, we've got 7 knobs that give us our most commonly accessed parameters: decay, the pre-delay, tone, modulation, 2 assignable parameters, and then of course mix. Now we've got a new OLED display also that gives you complete feedback on everything that's happening. And editing your sounds, very simple. The value allows us to scroll through the different types, of course. You can see which reverb type is loaded here, which machine is loaded here, the name, the length of it, and so on. If we press, now we can access the parameters. So we can adjust the low end, the size. So if we click that, we can choose either, in this case, studio or club. Those parameters are going to change depending on which reverb machine you have loaded up. When you're finished, press and hold. It'll drop you back to the editing menu. Press and hold again, and it takes you back to the display of the preset. As I mentioned, as you move among the machines, you're going to see a different set of parameters there under that value knob, so you can adjust the things that are relevant for the particular machine that you're working on. But all this gets even cooler when you start factoring in that you can have 2 engines going simultaneously. So for example, in this case, we have just 1 engine. Engine 1 is happening. But if we push, we can now choose to activate reverb 2. And there are a couple ways we can set that up. So if we scroll to the first one, we'll go to parallel, where we have the 2 reverbs running side by side. The same signal will feed into both of them, they'll be mixed, and then they go to the outputs. If we scroll again, we go to series, and in this case, engine 1 is going to feed into engine 2. Scroll again, and we reverse that. Engine 2 is now feeding into engine 1. One more time, and then we're now splitting left and right with the 2 engines. Or we can reverse that and go right-left with the 2 engines. So you have a lot of capability there for routing things. To exit out of this, we just push once, and now we're set up with our 2 engines. Now we have a bright LED, and that shows us which of the two engines we're editing, in this case engine 2. If we push, we'll go to engine 1. So now the parameters apply to engine 1. So we can access both the engines as well as their individual parameters simply by clicking on the machine select knob. To save and name our preset, we just push and hold. A new feature in the BigSky MX is this infinite foot switch here on the front panel, which can actually be set to either infinite, where the reverb continues to sustain, or freeze, where it chooses a section of the reverb and continues to recirculate that. That allows you to create pad effects and play over the top of them. Now this can be either a latching switch, where it turns on when you push it down, turns off when you push it again, or you can simply hold it for real-time momentary use. So let's go ahead and... So with momentary, we'd be set like that. Now it's very easy to go in here, scroll down to infinite latch for our preset, set it to latching, exit back out, and now it's a very cool feature that opens up a lot of performance possibilities for you. Continuing with the new features, we now have Strymon's Class A JFET preamps on the inputs as well, so these sound great and they feel great as a player as well. Now you can set the level of this to either instrument level for guitar or bass, or you can set it to line level for use in the studio. A new feature on the back panel is the USB-C port, which allows, of course, connecting to a computer, and this lets us do three things. First, we can do firmware updates. Second, we can control the BigSky MX via MIDI over USB, and virtually any of the parameters inside the BigSky MX can be addressed via MIDI. And third, Strymon is offering the Nixie 2 software. Now this is software that allows us to manage presets, do some editing, basically take complete charge of your BigSky MX right from your computer. Very handy to be able to see everything laid out on the computer screen that way. And finally, we've got analog dry-through with the BigSky MX. This means that your dry signal coming from your guitar, the unaffected signal, has zero latency. It's passing straight through input and back out the output and being blended with the reverb that's processed inside. This is a very pure and natural way to route your dry signal and then enhance it with that reverb. If we press and hold the value control for 3 seconds, we'll get into the global settings. We can choose the type of bypass true bypass, or buffered bypass. We have cab filtering or cab emulation built in. So a couple of different types of things there if you want to use this to emulate speaker for you. You can set our input levels, MIDI channel, MIDI controllers, program changes, the foot switch banks, active banks. You can set the home screen for stage view, for default view. So lots of different options here for setting up the BigSky MX exactly the way that you want to use it. And a key feature here is spillover, which allows the previous reverb to keep ringing while you switch to the next reverb in your presets. That's very nice because you don't get that chop of the reverb being cut off, the reverb tail being cut off when you move from preset to preset. Now, most of these global settings can be done either on a preset level or they can be done on a global level. So that allows you to tailor things very specifically to how you want to use the BigSky MX. So that's a very quick tour of the many, many features that are inside the BigSky MX. We've really just scratched the surface. I know everybody always says that, but it's true in this case. And one of the big hazards here is that everything sounds so good that you just want to sit and play with the 100 factory presets that are on board, but you'll want to dig in and create your own presets. You can store up to 200 of your own presets on board. You can load your own IRs. So many possibilities with the BigSky MX. Now, if you want complete information on this pedal, visit Sweetwater.com or contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. They'll be happy to tell you all about the BigSky MX or any of Strymon's products.